Let's talk about DWI charges in Fredericksburg, Texas. We've been representing folks in Fredericksburg for years on DWI first charges, and almost everybody, there are exceptions, but almost everybody that we represent doesn't live in Gillespie County, Texas, and oftentimes doesn't live in Texas. My name's Trey Porter. I'm a DWI lawyer here in Texas, and I want to just go through some of the fundamental things that we get from clients, both here in Texas and from out of state, when they're charged with a DWI after visiting Fredericksburg for a winery weekend or a wedding or something like that. Fredericksburg's a really kind of destination place for tourists, whether it's a weekend deal or you're going there for some type of an event. And it's a welcoming place in that way, but law enforcement there is still super conservative. And so we end up with a lot of folks who get a DWI charge. Let me talk to you about it first from a penalty standpoint. DWI first, you're looking at 6 months in jail, or if you have a BAC that's twice the legal limit or higher, you're looking at potentially up to a year in jail. I know that sounds crazy, but Texas has really serious DWI laws, and those are the max periods of confinement. Now, if you do live out of state, and you've got a DWI or whatever the equivalent in your state is, DUI, for example, or whatever. If you've got something like that on your history, you can get charged with a higher level offense down here in Texas. They can elevate it to a DWI second. If you've got two from somewhere else, they can elevate it to a felony. So that's something to be mindful of, but most folks are charged for the first time. So let's stick with that. It's a class A or B misdemeanor. We talked about the jail time. Thousands of dollars in fines is a potential punishment. Driver's license suspension is a big one. If you're watching this and you have a DWI in Fredericksburg or anywhere else in Texas, you are subject to a license suspension from DPS out of Austin. Typically, it's going to be 90 days or 180 days if you don't have any criminal history. But if you're watching this and you're from out of state, you can still get that license suspension. Just like Texas honors through interstate reciprocity, your state saying that, hey, this person's licensed to drive, they're good, and we let you drive down here in Texas, it goes the other way too. If Texas says, hey, this person messed up, and we're entering suspension action against them, and we're asking that you do the same, that suspension from down here in Texas, out in the hill country in Gillespie County, can follow you all the way back to Chicago or Boston or Nashville or wherever you're from. So that's something to be mindful of because oftentimes it happens and you don't get notification of it. Another common question that we get is what happens with court? Well, the first part of that is when is court? Court can take a while to start to materialize in Fredericksburg. It can take a few months before those first court dates are scheduled. For clients that we represent, we jump in, we're tracking all of that. If there's a first court date that we can get you out of participating in, then we want to do that. Not because we're trying to delay things, but because the inherent nature of DWI in Texas is you got to get a lot of evidence and you have to take time to come through it. And that evidence can sometimes really take months to get. The prosecutors are duty bound to get us everything we request. Body cams, police reports, accident reports, other things. But there's no legal timeline that they have with which to turn it over to us. So delays are inherent. Now, I will say this from experience, the county attorney's office in Gillespie County is good as far as turning things over and trying to act fast and really work to move cases, but there are still just inherent delays. So that's something that you should be prepared for is for a timeline, right, with this DWI case to go 6, 8, 10 months. That's not unusual at all. And if you do have to participate in early court dates, I know it's easier said than done, but don't have anxiety. Nothing's done till it's done. An early court appearance, remember, is really just you complying with the condition of your bond, which is to participate in court whenever it's scheduled. Never are we going to have a client who's put in a position where something substantive is going to happen to them that we haven't talked about, prepared for, agreed to, and then scheduled at a time that works for everybody. So there are these long and moving timelines with these things. But I do want you to know that Texas does have serious DWI penalties, and they can be overcome and they can be mitigated in certain circumstances, but you don't get that through good luck. You don't get that through being a nice out-of-town visitor, and you don't get that for being somebody who doesn't have criminal history. You get that from getting organized. And the way to get organized is to get counsel, and to get that counsel to request everything and do an exhaustive analysis to make sure that the police officers have what they say they had, but also that they got what they said they got the right way. And they didn't trip over anybody's constitutional rights, and they didn't trample anybody's procedural requirements, whether that's with the county, the state, or just their own office. So all of those things are important, and you need a lawyer to do that. So that's the big takeaway I want you to have from this, is that it's serious, take it seriously, and I encourage you to get local counsel. We've represented folks in Gillespie County for a number of years. We offer free consultations. You can call us for one. If you decide that you want to go in a different direction, that's totally fine. Whether you talk to me or anybody else, you just need to get a lawyer. So if you have questions, we're here from them. Otherwise, good luck to you.